Hi everyone, welcome back. This is I Am, a series where we feature individuals who have made it up the ladder and, of course, faced both positives, negatives, ups and downs in their life. But today they are towering figures in the industry. So we're meeting with yet another individual of that caliber. He's none other than Shalin Balasuriya, co founder of Sparsilon. Good to have you with us on the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Great to have you as well. First of all, thank you very much for taking time off and making time to be with us on I Am. Just to tell you, Shalin, this is a show series that we, of course, want to give out a message to our audience in terms of because you, as an individual, have made it up the ladder there and trying out new things and, of course, taking Sri Lanka out there internationally around the globe. To start off with, how would you like this individual by the name of Shalin to be described or identified out there in the industry?
Um, in the industry, in a corporate sense, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I think you get a lot of tags thrown at you. An entrepreneur is a tag that's thrown at me a lot. But I think essentially, if you ask me what I am, I'm a marketer, and that's where everything stems from. So if I'm to leave something behind for the industry, I think if I can be seen as someone who did something new, who did something for Sri Lanka, and someone who took this amazing Sri Lankan message to the world, that would be a nice little piece in the industry to leave behind.
I think some lovely description given out there by Shalin to start off the show with. I would start off the conversation like this. Shalin will take you back to the classroom.
Okay.
How did it all start there? Your roots.
Well, I was in three schools. I started at St. Peter's, much like yourself.
Yes.
16 years at St. Peter's, did my O levels there. I moved to St. Nicholas, and then I ultimately ended up doing my A levels at British School in Colombo. That was the school days. So school days are quite fun. I was quite outgoing. Loved being in school. Spent more time in school than people wanted me to. Not necessarily in the classroom, but in school.
Okay.
It was a fun time, and then came university, which I did in Australia, in Sydney. The last day of the last exam, I finished and came right back. I was the only one, the only Sri Lankan in my batch to come back to Sri Lanka, but that's what Sri Lanka means to me. So, school was fun. And school was fun. You wouldn't call me a very studious person, but I enjoyed school in all its luster.
That's nice. So that's a little bit about the classroom, Shalin. So was there this grooming up that you felt like one day you need to be the co-founder or you need to be behind a big brand which is taken out across the globe?
See, there's a sense that people think that because my mother had a cosmetic brand that she groomed her children to take it on or move forward, but there's nothing of the sort. She never said that we needed to be part of the business even. She insisted that we get an education and then we could decide what we want to do. Even when I came back from Australia with my degree, I had no plans on joining the family business or the industry. Just so happened that I had to fill in for something in my mother's business when one of the managers left, and then liked it, ended up becoming a management trainee in her business, and the rest is history, as you say.
That's how it all started. Well, they say that when the roots are in the whole business, that it's easy for an individual. Basically, now we'll say you said your mom, of course, a towering figure in the beauty industry back in the days, and that name has grown out to be something different today. Is it easy to say that the child gets all the positives and it's easy for that individual to grow out there?
I think there is a benefit growing up with someone who's so driven and so positive and wants to achieve something, because that lends itself to the home as well. I grew up in a home where my mother created Sri Lanka's first cosmetic brand in our pantry. I saw the hard work that went into it. I saw the dedication. I saw the amount of work she put in. So it's hard to ignore. It's something that you almost absorb without even realizing it. So yeah, for sure, having a parent that is driven in any industry, not necessarily entrepreneurship, rubs off on the parents. I mean, you see so many doctors having kids who are doctors, lawyers having kids who are lawyers. So it does rub off, yeah, for sure.
Did you ever want to be someone else than who you are today, as in behind a big brand, or did you picture yourself to be someone else?
I really didn't know what I wanted to do till mid university, really.
Okay.
And then when I realized that I loved marketing and whatever I did was going to be within that field, And as I started working, I also loved the creative side of things, the ability to build something, to do something new. So anything creative I've been drawn to. So based on that, I knew maybe now my early 20s, it had to be something that I could build, something that I could be creative in. And whether that was cosmetics or beauty or wellness, I didn't know. But now I'm in that, plus I'm looking at some other things outside of that as well. So anything that allows me to be creative, anything that allows me to build, I'd love to do that.
Well, indeed, some great answer coming out there from Shalin in this conversation of I am. I would like to ask you, Shalin, this question as well. You have taken a rich Ayurvedic brand out there into not just local but international market as well. If you may mention to say that this was the highlight of your career, can you signify it?
It's tough to say this is the highlight because we are now in 106 locations across 27 countries. We're growing fast, and we just opened Saudi Arabia. Hopefully, in a few months, there's another one opening in Portugal. So it's all exciting. But one significant moment for me personally was years ago, very early on in the journey of Spa Salon. We were in India. My brother and I, and the store was opening, and we saw the first Spa Salon billboard go up in India, and we saw the guys putting it up in possibly the biggest shopping street in India. And just to see that go up for some reason was quite overwhelming, and it felt like, oh, we've taken Sri Lanka and the brand somewhere. So that was a significant moment. But every time you open a new location, whether it's actually Sri Lanka or overseas, there's some pride involved in it, and there's a feeling of that fact that we are getting closer to our goal of being a dominant global brand.
Definitely, and also wishing you and your team all the very best as you continue to take the brand out there globally as well. You mentioned about how proud you and your brother was when when the poster went up there in India. Family business, I would put it this way.
Yeah.
There is this perception saying that when you're involved in a family business, there's a lot of maybe controversial comments in terms of maybe positives, negatives coming along. How do you are an ideal example for a successful family business? How do you manage this?
I think the key is that you keep the family and the business separate. What happens even now, our board consists of pretty much family members. Whatever happens in the boardroom doesn't spill out into the dining room or to a family setting, and there's a very, very clear line drawn. Also, even when I came into the business, I started at the bottom. I came as a management trainee, just like anybody else with a degree would come in. My nephews and nieces are entering the business now. They've entered the business and they've been working with us for some time. They started at the bottom and they're working their way up. So the fact that we were family didn't make any difference to where we started in the business. So even within the other people in the business, there's a lot of respect, mutual respect, that people who grew together in the business, and that we've seen every aspect of the business. You don't suddenly walk up one day right out of university and sit down as a director. So that helps as well. Also, a conscious effort that when we sit as a family not to talk about business or not to talk about work really helps. And the family bond on the other side, working on the family relationship also is very, very helpful, because one supports the other. So it's been a good run, and we've got our third generation in the business now, and everyone's working really well together.
And that's really nice to hear as well. So it's going to continue. The legacy continues from generation to generation.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd love to see that.
That's nice. Also, Shalin, working with people is key. Especially it's family, plus then you have your employees. It's a huge team out there. How do you manage this whole thing in terms of managing people, which is of course an important thing nowadays to do, because they say happy employees, happy customers.
Absolutely. So I think managing people in different parts of the business are different. Now, how the factory is managed is very, very different. How my teams are managed are very, very different. How, for instance, accounting HR is managed is very, very different in terms of the structure and management. I think the important thing is picking the right people. I've come to realize very recently that culture is more important than anything else, especially in my team.
That's
So hiring people with the right attitude, hiring people who get along with each other really helps fuel the team. So even more than paper qualifications, obviously they need to be qualified and competent, but lots of people with the right attitude are trainable. So hiring on culture really makes a difference. And when I say culture, I don't mean their ethnic culture. I mean the way they behave around people, the way they interact with each other. That's very important.
Shalin has turned out to be a brand. He's a brand himself. Brand, how do you see the difference between Sparsilon and Shalin? Maintaining a brand is, of course, a very important thing. How do you handle this?
I think everyone has more than one persona now because I'm in social media and so on. And we as entrepreneurs have the luxury of using your personal persona also to complement what you do. And I think I've tried to do that. It's been a conscious effort to do that as well.
Yeah.
And I think my interest has always been within the brand anyway, and the kind of lifestyle that goes along with the philosophy of the brand has been of interest to me. So it's authentic. It's not a put on, but it's about also taking the time to put it out there and being able to interact with people on a personal level. I also do a lot of work with young entrepreneurs, young people, talking to them. I interact with people one-on-one on social media all the time, do a lot of stuff like this. We've done stuff together before. So giving back in that sense from the experiences of being an entrepreneur or being a marketer, lots of educational stuff, and a lot of exchange of information, and just giving a little bit of your life out there as well. I think the balance is important. How much of your personal life you want to put out there if you are building this brand for yourself as an entrepreneur. So I'm very selective about how I do that. And I keep a lot within me, but there's a lot I can also share with the public, and just to be interactive and to be positive. So a lot of what I do, you've seen my content, it's all about being positive. It's all about being able to work in Sri Lanka, how there are so many positives about being in Sri Lanka that we need to use, and being happy really. I mean, we all need to spread a little joy in a very negative world.
Of course.
Why not?
Why not? Happiness is key also
Absolutely.
in everything you do. While we also spoke about this term balance, I would like to rephrase the question this way. Work-life balance, how does that work for you? Because I'm sure it's a full-time job. Because they say the more you climb up the ladder, they might think that, your responsibilities ease. That's what the people at the bottom level might think. But actually, the higher you go, the higher decision-making and all that you have to take. Work-life balance, how do you see this and how do you work through it?
See, there is no right equation for work-life balance, right? Because in certain times in your life, or it could be a week, a month, a year, you have to give more time to work to build something or make something happen or something that needs attention. Certain times in life, you need to give more time to your personal life because something else needs attention. So work-life balance has to be looked at like that. What does your life need at that point? But the big one is this. What is the end goal? Right? What I always say is the end goal is joy. It's not money, it's not status, it's not business. The end goal is joy, right? So what is going to take you to that state of joy, happiness, right? So you have to figure that out, and to get you there, balance these two things and take it forward.
Balancing and end goal joy, I think some great advice and as well as some great tips coming out from Shalin himself, the way you practice things in life in terms of work-life balance. I would direct the question this way around. We all have been, affected by this current pandemic. And I'm sure you as a local and international global brand also may have been affected by this. But what kind of drawbacks did you face in terms of this COVID pandemic which we're facing, and how did you overcome it?
Well, for Sparsilon, we are a very sensory brand, and even our shopping experience, as everyone knows, is very sensory. It's about getting in the store, the fragrance, the aromas, the music, the lighting, the colors, all that.
That's right.
So here we were a brand built on such an immersive experience. Suddenly, our consumers can't get to us. Suddenly, people are locked down, we are far away, and now we had to recreate this experience through a screen. So it took a lot of thinking. as to how to continue that connection with our audience when you go from a very multisensory level to almost a two-dimensional situation. But I think we manage. So it forced us to really look into ourselves, really look into the brand, look into technologies out there, and adjust. And I think what saved us was our attitude. We could have easily said, "Oh, that's not what our brand is about. Our brand is like this. We have to wait till this ends." But we said, "No, our brand is about connecting with consumers. The way we used to connect can't be done anymore. But now what do? So we embrace technology, we embrace connectivity on multiple platforms and went out there and did it and managed to maintain that connection with the brand. Not only that, we brought a lot of new people into the brand, particularly in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Also, being a global brand helped because even with the pandemic, as certain countries were shutting down, certain countries kept opening up. So there was a bit of up and down there, which was helpful. And overall, I think the silver lining for us coming out of it is how we embrace technology, how we looked at our messaging differently, how we engage differently, which has given us another dimension. So when the normal comes back, or those aspects of the normal interactions come back, we have this and that together. So we see it as positive and we're moving forward.
I'm sure it also opened up new avenues and new opportunities in terms of, adjusting to a new normal life.
Absolutely. Also, being a wellness brand, the way the world looks at wellness has changed. They're seeing it as much more of a priority. The way the world looks at sciences like Ayurveda has changed. The way the world is looking at ingredients that we've always had in this beautiful country of ours: turmeric, ginger, ashwagandha, all these amazing wonder herbs. The world has really opened their eyes to it. So it's a big plus for a brand coming out of a country like Sri Lanka, and a brand that has embraced all these things right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of potential in a post-pandemic world.
That's great. They say not every morning you wake up, you're not this go-getter, ever-ready kind of individual. It happens to everyone. But how do we'll say you wake up one morning, you're like, no, I can't do this. How in a situation like that, which even our viewers may face right now, what's that simple advice you would like to give them?
Do something small, right? When you wake up in the morning, don't think about, oh, I need to get this done and achieve this target, if that's what's dragging you down. First thing you do, wake up in the morning and say, okay, I need to get out of bed. Next thing I do, I need to brush my teeth. Next thing I need to do, I need to do this. Small targets. Especially when you get stuff, always focus on the small things and the big things will come. There's a very interesting story in Will Smith's book about building a wall, how his father owned this building and the wall collapsed.
Okay.
And his father got he and his brother to start building this wall, and it was a humongous wall. And they kept working on it day in and day out, and it was so large that they kept putting the bricks up, but they never saw an end to it. So they were giving up, and they complained to the dad, and the dad comes and says, forget about the wall. You're not here for the wall. You're here to lay one brick. Think about laying that brick perfectly. And when you start focusing on the small goals, eventually the big goal happens. Yes, with sight of the big goal, you need to start working on small goals, especially in times when you're frustrated. If everything seems too daunting, start looking at the small pieces, start putting it together. Next thing you know, you're closer to the goal and it's not daunting anymore.
It's like the building blocks.
Absolutely.
Lay it proper.
Yeah.
And then end of the day, you might see a good product
Yeah.
out there. A lovely story, of course, there. I would like to ask you this question. Well, I think we have spoken about this as well. Failure, success is something which is very common. And being in the industry, I'm sure you must have overcome so much of failure, so much of success. But the thing is, how content are you in terms of, one day understanding, what, okay, this is it, I have built a brand, but what's next for this individual, Shalin?
Look, in terms of the brand, we're still in the journey. Like I said, we want to be a dominant global brand that is known for what we do, and also a brand that took piece of Sri Lanka to the world. In terms of what I'd like to leave behind is that, again, that's someone who did something for the country, someone who took a brand from Sri Lanka and took it to the country. And look, the end goal is, if someone said, you know what, he was a good guy, that's good enough.
That's good enough,
Yeah.
no? Nothing of it matters.
No?
Just that
Yeah.
Shalin was a great individual.
Yeah.
I think so far when people talk about you that way, which is
Again, not great. He was a good guy.
Good
He was
guy.
he was nice to me.
Yeah.
There's this. I tell this to my staff all the time. In a marketing way as well. People will forget what you did for them or said to them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
That's true. Very
Right.
true.
So if that's your legacy, and everyone says, you know what, he was a good guy, it's good enough.
That's good enough, definitely. With that term of good guy, I would like to ask you, how do you, in terms of stress management, or this new term which has come into play, stress, I feel so stressed out, I don't know what to do, I want to give up. What's that advice you would like to give out to the up and coming aspiring entrepreneurs like you?
Okay. Firstly, if you're stressed, go to spa salon, lean back, get a massage. There you go. So no, but stress. I think a lot of stress comes from, again, you have this daunting task and you're pushing to it. You think you can't get to it, and you're struggling with it, and so on. You need to start breaking things down. You need to start breaking things down and say, okay, to get to this, I need to do this. To get to this, you need to do this, and start focusing on those smaller goals. And suddenly you'll find yourself being able to achieve that well, and then you're charged up to do the next one, and charged up to the next one to hit the ultimate goal. So I think it's down to breaking it down, really. Breaking it down and understanding it. Also, a big part of stress is often caused by taking on too much.
That's true.
Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with good people that allows you to continue to do what you do best, especially as entrepreneurs, especially as people leading teams. If there's so much going on that it doesn't allow you to bring the magic you bring to whatever you're doing, and that you're doing so many other things, that's such a waste. You need to surround yourself with good people so you can continue to bring that magic. And plus, when you're doing something you love, and when you're doing something you're worked up about, charged up about, you don't get stressed. You're energized. You want to do it. You want to see it through, right? So, those are my little pieces of advice. Break it down into small bits. Focus on the details, and then get to the big one. Surround yourself with good people that love you to do what you do best.
There you go, people. If you're going through stress, I think every morning you need to rewind this and watch over and over again.
And get to spa salon.
And get to spa.
We've got de-stress products. We've got massages. There you go.
All of it, definitely. Deviating from our conversation of stress, if you are given a role to, take control, or in terms of the country, into power leadership, how would you take up such a role?
Youth would be great. Whether it's education or entrepreneurship, I think education would be a very interesting area to take on. How do we harness the talent we have? How do we develop the talent we have to an extent that they can do something with it? I think we've got a lot of talented youth out there. I work with several organizations that work with youth and entrepreneurship, and the ideas that these guys have, and we live in a great age, right?
That's true.
Because of the internet, suddenly you can learn anything. If you really want to, you can learn anything for free, right?
Yeah.
If your attitude is good and you want to learn something, you can, right? So, but a lot of the time it's about application. It's about having the funds to put something together, something to take to the next level, so on. And usually there's one small piece missing. Either it's language issue, either it's an infrastructure issue, either it's they don't have the right background to push them forward. But if we could create an education system that looks at people and looks at their talents and starts harnessing them to achieve things that are beneficial in terms of their growth, that'd be fantastic.
So if Shalin Balasuriya gets an opportunity to take up leadership in the country, he would.
Oh, are we talking politically?
Yes.
Oh no, not at all. I think the structure of our political system is messed up, because I think even the good people in the system can't get anything done because there's so much corruption and all that around it. Where I think people like us can fit in is in associations, in support systems, in our own businesses as well, by hiring people, training people, getting them out there. rather than trying to get into politics, which is a bit of a dirty game at the moment.
That's his take on that question which I asked you. So I think it's time for us to wrap things up. And I think it was indeed a very eye opening conversation as well, and great to share this session with you. As we bring things to a close, Shalin, I would like to ask you a piece of advice to our audience watching us. We have people watching us from all different kinds of, backgrounds, entrepreneurs, business people, individuals who aspire to be like you. What would that simple message be?
I think in something pertinent to our times, everywhere I go, there's this a little bit of hopelessness out there saying, "Oh, Sri Lanka, it's falling apart, economy is falling apart." Well, yes, there are problems. There are problems. Things are happening. Things beyond our control are happening. But let's not forget, each of us have certain amount of things within our control. Figure out what those things are. Figure out how you can build. In the worst of times, businesses can build. In the worst of times, careers can build. In the worst of times, you can put things together. There are advantages of being in a country like Sri Lanka. There are advantages of being in a country still that has not been properly discovered. We have an amazing culture. We have resources that are amazing. We have a history that's amazing. Build that into whatever you're doing. Whether you're building a brand, build that into it. If you're looking at taking something out to the world, see what this little country has, because the world is looking for authentic, interesting stories that are different, that are unique, and we have a lot of them. So start looking at Sri Lanka for what it can give you also, rather than saying, "Oh, everything is falling apart." Because there is a lot in this country that can be very, very beneficial to building something global. Funnily enough, I just did a TED talk on the same subject. Hope it will be out soon. But look at our country in a positive way. Don't get bogged down by everything that's happening right now. That would be my message.
Lovely message. Look at our country, look at everything around in a positive way, and like you said, surround good people around you as well, so that the best inner joy would be satisfied.
Absolutely.
Yes. I think it was lovely to share this conversation with you. Once again, thank you very much for joining on the series of I Am Taking Time Off. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to a close of this series of I Am. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much to you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take care.
Until next time, we'll see you again soon. Take care and stay safe.